Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Osquery Office Hours. Here it is in October, at least in Boston. It is torrentially raining, so hopefully the weather is nice wherever people may be. Uh, First up, we have announcements and highlights. Might merit an announcement, but I fixed CI this weekend, so hopefully things should be better now. Sorry, that's what I've got.
Thank you. They certainly look better.
Yeah.
ERs are
Okay.
merging left and right.
APRs. Next section is kind of an open section for any questions, issues, PRs, anything people want to discuss. And Philip, it sounded like you had something, so floor is yours.
Yeah. So the other day I had a chance to speak with CrowdStrike, the security vendor, about the Osquery extensions that exist that we've seen somewhere between 5 and 7 different extensions be built by different people, and raised the question of would they be willing to look into to contribute and or maintain a series of CrowdStrike Osquery tables. They tentatively sounded like they were interested in it, and are open to having more discussions on it. One of the items that they were asking is if we have a list of the different items that people would like to capture via Osquery so that they can look at the use case, better understand it, and start to potentially implement it. If any of y'all have some that you know of, if you have customers that you've talked with that are using CrowdStrike and want to gather data from it via Osquery, if y'all can send or post anything like that, I can post something in the channel too. But we're trying to put together a list, and I did invite Noah and Zach. I've sent you meeting invites. If anybody else is interested in that meeting, they're open to having a meeting with multiple members of the Osquery community. I didn't think to invite them to this. That would have been the ideal thing. But I think if I'm glad to forward that on to anybody else who's interested.
Feel free to include me on that.
Yeah.
One of the better things to do might also be to try and open up an Osquery issue just to allow sort of asynchronous communication.
Yeah.
People to yammer in it. They're public, easy to deal with.
That's a good idea.
I can say that we have customers that use Collide to gather sort of high-level status data. Is this machine enrolled? Is it in, I think CrowdStrike's the one that has like RTM mode, which is sort of the degraded mode.
Yeah, RFM, reduced
RFM,
functionality.
Thank you. Yeah. Is the machine enrolled and healthy is kind of the high level thing that people want to know and validate. And then it's, well, what is healthy and how do you check that? And are they enrolled into the right organization? So that's sort of what we see.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I've never used CrowdStrike, but I think it's awesome that like you're seeing a lot of Osquery extensions. Maybe there should be an Osquery like extension package registry or something. And Zach and I have talked about that a lot in the past. But I would think like having a really robust like CrowdStrike device table that has definitely at least all of the identifying information about that device from CrowdStrike's perspective, and then any like per device configuration information, or if CrowdStrike has its own articulation of flavor of the device or something, or like a taxonomy of the operating systems that's different than how Osquery taxonomizes, like basically the intersection stuff that's totally specific to CrowdStrike, having one great like CrowdStrike device, like Osquery info style table, CrowdStrike info. Yeah, I mean that would be probably a cool table because like CrowdStrike quarantine items is naturally tabular in list form, whereas like an Osquery info style single column table would probably be good for like the CrowdStrike info. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and like historically, we have the carbon black info table, which includes some of that kind of information that that Mike is referring to. Some of the configuration, some of, I think, the identifying information. And I think that identifying information is always a really good one because people often want to be able to correlate, like, okay, this device that I see through Osquery, is it the same device that I'm seeing in CrowdStrike? So I hardly endorse that kind of identifying information. And Philip, I'm guessing because you're having this conversation, you have some specific use cases in mind.
Yeah, well, and one of the reasons, one of the first things was, Zach, there's an issue that I created a while back in Fleet's issues list of the Falcon sensor tags output was broken
Okay.
because CrowdStrike changed the format on the back end
Yeah.
of how their output, and so the parsing broke.
Yeah.
So one of the main things that I've discussed with CrowdStrike is, even if they don't 100% maintain it because they don't have, a single Osquery repo or anything like that at the moment, would they be willing to just contribute and discuss and give a heads up of, hey, this item's going to be changing that would impact Osquery's functionality, those kinds of things. So we're having a series of discussions on that kind of. Yeah, my hand's not working. Okay, so yeah, okay, so those are a good list of items. I'll capture those and discuss them during the meeting that we have tomorrow. And Zach, I'll make sure to include you in it. And then who was the other person
Yeah,
that I
and
saw?
thank you, Philip. I got an invite either via you or via Noah, and I should be able to join at least by phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it was
the other
Joseph.
one.
Oh yeah, Seth.
Okay.
I just tossed an email address into the chat for you.
Awesome. Okay.
I think actually it raises an interesting side question, which is a sort of Osquery is sort of an information gathering tool, right? And we collect information, and CrowdStrike is a vendor; they do stuff. But like, I don't think there really is today a standard for that sort of interchange format, right? Some vendors might ship a command line that you can exec and get some information. Some vendors might stash it in a JSON file on disk. Some vendors, you're looking at like the shared signals framework and sort of server-side APIs. So I think there's an interesting question of like, do they want to maintain an Osquery table, or can they just sort of know that whatever they do, if they can commit to something, there were people downstream that will consume it, right? If they want to be like, use Falcon Cuddle, and they can be consistent in the output or support like a -- JSON or something, then Fleet, Collide, anyone else will just parse that.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we can talk about that in the meeting tomorrow. But I would say even more ideally, can they just like write it to a file so we don't have to shell out to something, and then we can just build it right into Osquery, or they can.
Also true. But yeah.
But yeah, currently I think Fleet pulls in the tables that use Falcon Cuddle, and those were, I think, originally written as part of the Mac Admins Osquery extension, if I remember.
I know I've written some in the past, but I don't know.
Or maybe they were originally written by you.
From Mac Admins. But yeah.
No, very well. Maybe it came from Collide's open source extensions. I don't remember.
Could be either. As said, many people have written it. Yeah, and I know we're like deconstructing the JWT that it leaves lying around too at this point to get some additional info.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, something I really like is, on Linux, like this sort of pseudo file system in dev where you can get like lots of information about connected devices through just reading files. Like I think it'd be cool if more applications and systems sort of just wrote data into files that was super easy to parse, and especially if they're in well-known locations, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder how that works with it's hard to think about trust, right? Like, do you trust a file you find on disk? But do you really trust what you can exec out of Falcon Codel any more than that? Like, what's trust? And so,
I guess you're down to the operating system security constraints. Like if you can see that the file is owned by root and is thus globally readable, you're like, well, either CrowdStrike installed as root or I'm fucked anyway, basically, whoever
mhm.
Which has always relatively been the threat model of Osquery, like either
Exactly,
root
yeah.
safe or you're fucked.
Yeah. Which is pretty much the threat model of computers in some way.
Less and less for macOS.
Yeah, true. Because now there's another level of nirvana that we can pursue.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail the conversation, but that does bring up something if we're done with this topic. So has anyone used the new functionality on macOS where I can't remember, I think they announced it at the last WWDC, where you can essentially make a tamper-proof like background process, and you can let's see. This is pretty hazy right now. I think it's something like there's maybe an MDM. There's a declarative MDM payload where you can lay down a file and a config and say like run this and don't let any user with any permissions on the computer tamper with this process or this binary. Anyway, could be awesome to use for Osquery or similar.
What is that API called?
Oh, give me a minute or two to research that.
You're talking about more than just the hardened runtime.
I believe I am.
There's another similar Apple function that I've been recently thinking about. I don't know about this one, but there's like several years ago, Apple developed some stuff around preventing cheating in games. So there's actually like a whole subsystem for binaries to validate themselves against their signature and communicate it sort of SAS to SAS. So there's like the binary can reach out to Apple's servers and get a signature, which it then sends to your servers, and you can then validate it with Apple. So it gives you like this big end-to-end validation. I think it's app assurance, maybe, but I haven't looked too deeply at that.
And I think I found what I was referring to: the services background tasks declaration. Well, maybe this was all the way back in 2023.
It doesn't look like you can actually enforce very much with this, unfortunately. Just like file permissions of the files in the bundle, and maybe some elements of what's contained in the launch deconfiguration, which would probably be something that should be uptaken by like Launcher or Orbit or something like that.
Right, but I mean, it may give you the ability to prevent end users from removing or modifying it. So
Yeah, if I remember, I wish I could find like where I saw this more thoroughly described, but it was something along the lines of like once if the MDM sends down the payload, it doesn't matter what permissions the user has, like through SIP, they can't tamper with that process or those files.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I guess Osquery has this like strange sort of package distribution mechanism where it's there are packages that you can use to install and run Osquery, but then all of the vendors like repackage it or something.
Yeah.
So it's like who's responsible for then controlling these elements of what is supposed to happen. I feel like it should probably be like a reference implementation inside of the Osquery packages, since a lot of people overlay those.
I do imagine that Launcher and Fleet D like each need to implement their own, or I mean, it could be the same code,
which they should be doing for
but it
their
should be at that layer
binaries and their launch Ds as well.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, I assume we're just chatting about it because coincidentally, most of the major Osquery vendors are on this call. So
yes. Yeah, and because it came to mind to me because we were talking about the sort of the threat model.
Yeah,
I've got no horse in this race, guys.
I was just curious if anyone was doing it. I'd love to see anyone do it. I think it would be great.
yeah, there's sort of a not related, tangential offshoot conversation around more and more. One of the things that we see in the Collide, like a lot of what people do with Collide, as several of you probably know, right, is that they're gathering basic system information. Is the firewall on, or is the Mac OS automatically accept security updates setting checked? Yeah, I assume similar with Fleet. But one of the things that's often a pain point for us is MDMs, because Mac, if you have a setting that is enforced at the MDM level, that's not always surfaced in any of the things that we found access to through Osquery or even Launcher. And I think this actually gets a lot worse with the new DDM stuff as well. Like I think several of the DDM settings are not surfaced anywhere. So we get into this place where like DDM overrides what we can see for local settings. I don't know if y'all have struggled with that or not so much yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my eyes, it just mirrors how things have always been with like device management on Apple, or P lists don't necessarily reflect the actual state and that kind of thing.
Sure.
Fleet, for some of our customers at least who are using our MDM, like we're in a slightly different position because we are the MDM. But yes, these challenges are there for sure.
Yeah, we're about to start trying to figure out what we can parse out of the DDM configs right now, but we haven't quite opened that can of worms. That's what I've got for agenda items.
So should we target getting an Osquery release out around like beginning of November?
Absolutely. I was just noticing that it's been a little while. We could probably target end of October or beginning of November.
End of October. Yeah, I mean, we don't have a ton of new PRs, but there's definitely some new stuff. I think Constantine, was that from you? PR from you? Oh no, sorry, that was Dante from Fleet. But there's gonna be a couple of PRs on npm packages related stuff. I put in.
Yeah.
There's a couple of bug fixes and yeah, there's various stuff. So
Yeah, and I think I know there's more kind of waiting to merge as well. The one that I feel like I'd love to figure out how to resolve is the scoped npm package. I just don't know enough about JavaScript to know what correct is.
yeah, I mean, it looked like we came to some consensus yesterday. Or the contributor said they're fine with either way. I think I agree with your initial assessment that they probably shouldn't be included. So maybe I'll just request that and then we'll merge it once they do that.
Yeah, I mean, my impression is the original contributor doesn't actually understand JavaScript and doesn't know what correct is.
No, I think they probably don't really know much better than we do.
Yeah, and
however,
all of
my research indicated that it probably like your suggestion is probably the most expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I probably read the same help docs. So, in our independent research, but all I could find from sort of the official JavaScript docs was that scope packages should include an @ symbol. And
for those who have no idea what we're talking about, I'll link the discussion. I suppose, you know, being aware of what the npm ecosystem is like to some extent, I wonder if it is possible to publish packages with a / in them that don't have an @, then
you should ask your React.
Osquery probably should support it. Maybe we should even try to publish something to npm to verify that.
You have React developers, right?
Yes.
Go ask them.
Well, I looked at all our packages and there's none that seem. Yeah. I mean, we can ask them for sure. We can ask them. Yeah.
I don't think my Rails developers know.
Rails developers don't know that.
Yeah, JavaScript is not really their strong point. Good at lots of things, but JS is not their bread and butter. Are there other things we want to try and get in? There's this boost upgrade, but that's still in draft mode. It looks like the contributor on this get status message to the logs vanished on us. It's like months ago now. They did not sign the CLA, which is tough. Could probably just re-implement that if we wanted to. Do you have anything else that you want to try and get in soon?
I don't think that I have pressing things.
Stefano, anything y'all want to try and get into a release? Nope. Okay, I mean, maybe we just cut one when the npm package thing gets resolved.
Yeah, so I suppose we could. So let's see. When was the last release?
In August, I think.
August. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then maybe we should once that PR gets in. I'm happy to do that.
I'm down for that. Yeah. I think the thing I have is just some README stuff. It doesn't have to land in a release. Oh, okay. Anyone want to talk about anything else, or are we done for the day?
We're probably
That's fine.
done. I'm
Okay.
inquiring internally as to this, and I might try to see whether it's actually possible to publish something like that about the JavaScript thing, and then we'll merge it and cut.
That reminds me, there was discussion about BPF and toolchains, and I did see that Alessandro opened an issue. Did you see that, Zach?
Yes, I saw that Alessandro opened the issue. I was planning to publicize that in some way through like a blog post or something soon.
Okay.
Oh,
I
Alessandro's
just
on
wanted
here.
to make sure.
Thank you,
we saw
Alessandro, for doing that.
So, okay, that can inch its way forward then. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all. Nice to see you. And thank you for all of the bits of work you do. Somewhere I probably have a stop recording.
Bye, everybody.
And the